You guys have been asking for it, so here it is. This is roughly what I eat on any typical day. Hello Kindred Longevity Lifestyle Designers, this is Zach, your secrets of longevity.com. This is a couple meals in one video. I'm going to go through the recipes very quickly, not do this long drawn out explanation of each ingredient, because this is going to comprise everything I eat in one day. Now I'm on the warrior diet, which is most of my eating, the majority of my eating is right at the end of the day in a compressed time frame. So I'm consuming ideally around 2,000 calories in the latter part of the day, for dinner basically. I do spread it out into 2 or 3 portions, as I'm doing tonight, because I was actually so busy today that I didn't get to have a smoothie earlier in the day, to sort of a low-calorie smoothie, just to sort of keep me going and tide me over until the first meal. So it's actually going to be a bit more bulked up, because the meal itself is a little lower in calories than normal, because I'm going to be doing a fish, a salmon fillet, and that's very low calorie as compared to beef or chicken or anything that has the higher fat and protein content or is denser. Now actually, in advance, calculate all the calories, and it works out to around 1,800 calories, so it's a little bit of a lower calorie day for me. Usually if I'm eating beef, chicken, or some other type of meat for the main meal, that'll be a higher calorie day, surpassing even 2,000 calories, which I feel great on. I'm pretty flexible either way, because I'm in the state that the warrior diet brings about. I can make do quite easily with lower calorie days, and then as long as I'm not constantly low calorie or lower calorie, I can do fine. So if you don't know what the warrior diet is, I've done a video in the past which you can check out here. Just click that link to get to that video, or just search the warrior diet on YouTube, and my video should be in the top listing there. So if you want to know what the benefits that it has for weight loss, muscle gain, trimming down, but also the mental effect it has on your mind and state of being. And then of course there's also the benefits of time saving and compressing that eating period to the end of the day. You have your work day and workflow open to just move through it effortlessly. I do have little snacks, and for instance today I had 2 hard-boiled eggs spaced out by a couple hours earlier in the day, so I woke up, did my usual water thing. I actually just came back from getting spring water today, so I was out of spring water for a day, and I actually had fizzy water, like a San Pellegrino mineral water that I had in the fridge. I didn't drink the usual high amount of that as I would normal water, just because I couldn't drink half a liter of fizzy water to get me going. But without focusing on all the little itty-bitty things that probably change from day to day, you know, my supplements and things, you've seen me do that in other videos. Right now I'm taking the cod liver and butter oil still, doing a bit of vitamin D, and anything you see in the smoothie could also technically be considered a supplement, but it's a superfood or an herb. But I'm not doing too much else besides that. There might be days here and there, or time periods where I might do something. I just finished a round of a high quality medicinal mushroom extract in capsules. That was 7 or 8 different mushrooms, including chaga, which is going to go in the drink today. So that's been building my immune system. I've got the chaga that I just boiled up. I've been recently adding that in. And as you also see in the videos, there's a lot more wild foods coming into my diet. If you want to check out the previous video that I posted on my channel, that is what I'm currently doing, or my reasons for getting into adding more wild foods into my diet, and that could give you a bit of background onto why I'm eating the way I'm eating now. So, to start things off, we're going to put this chaga tea into the blender. I have a cup of water in here just because I made a very strong decoction, which is fine, but I want to make it last a little longer, so I'm going to water it down just a little bit. This is actually Canadian wild chaga that a friend of mine collected, and he's going to have an online presence at some point doing videos about foraging mushrooms. He's actually from Europe, and he's was a professional mushroom collector there, collecting sort of gourmet mushrooms and things for restaurants, but it's hard to make a living of that in Canada because they don't pay as much for mushrooms apparently. But yeah, in the future he may be doing walks and things that I can go on, and we could do like a little demo of how to find wild mushrooms in the forest. So next up, we're going to add a bit of maca powder. I've been doing heavy maca lately. This feels really good. We've got about 2.5 to 3 cups of liquid total, about 2 cups of the chaga tea. We're just going to do 1 massive tablespoon. Okay, that was just regular tablespoon, so we'll do 2 tablespoons, because I've got a bit, not too much left in the bottom there. Next up, we're going to throw some cacao powder in there. This is from a good friend of mine who's got a large amount of cacao powder and just wanted to siphon some off onto me. And oh my god, what a burden to take cacao off someone's hands. That wasn't too hard of a choice, I guess. But even though it's been there, I've actually been good. I haven't been consuming cacao every day. Not something I do well on daily for a long period of time, so I've just been using it here and there. And actually, probably the first time this week, adding it in. But it always goes great in elixirs, I find. I'm going to add a tiny bit of shilajit from my apparently bottomless shilajit powder bag that I've had for over a year now. Such a small amount of this goes a long way, so the 1 pound bag really has been lasting a long time. Got about half a teaspoon of that. And again, do more research. I've got videos on some of these things specifically. Just search them on my channel and you can find videos where I talk about these more in depth, because there's a lot to get through in this video. We're going to do a pinch of salt. 2 pinches. I did an interview recently with a great up-and-coming health teacher on her, she's going to be doing a podcast, and I'll be featuring a segment of that on my channel, hopefully, if I can get that. And I talked about salt in a way that I don't think many people have talked about it before, and its ability to lower stress hormones, but also its traditional use, and actually how our ancestors, even back into tribal times, were using salt, but a different form of it. So it's not as unnatural as some people think. We're going to add some ant extract, about half a tablespoon. And that's from Hyperion Herbs. You can find that at the links below. A lot of these things you can find in the links below, of course. Great source of zinc and other essential nutrients in very high and concentrated quantities. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of colostrum powder. We're going to add some coconut milk from a BPA-free can, about half a cup. Might seem like a large amount, but I'm going to need the calories, especially with the fish, which is very not calorie dense. We're going to sweeten it with a bit of stevia and maple syrup. So again, we're working in more wild foods, the coconuts, the chaga, and some other things, and we're going to put maple syrup in because that's a wonderful wild sweetener. Very mineral dense. About a tablespoon's worth. This is kelp powder. I'm going to shake a little bit of this in. I like to add it to everything, especially with some of the fears going on with Reactor 4 at Fukushima. Some really scary things happening. Might do a video on that, because there's some great potential for some very disastrous things happening further with the Japanese nuclear crisis, and it's a shame that the mainstream media isn't getting on top of this and talking about the dangers, because if things, right now as it stands, it's very susceptible to anything from an earthquake to a tsunami, making things worse, much worse. We're talking like the power in terms of radiation of 1,000 nuclear bombs, but not obviously exploding, but radiating out and spilling out, which would not be good at all. Be quite devastating, way bigger than Chernobyl or even the previous thing that happened with Japan there. This is the green stevia powder, just adding a very small amount. I'm used to using the white powder, but even the green is still potent. Just a pinch of that. Might have to add more if it's not sweet enough for my liking, which isn't terribly sweet, but got 1 egg, 2 eggs, and of course these are pasture eggs. I did have a total of 6 eggs today, if you include these 2. I had the 2 earlier in the day, and I actually had 2 more that were hard-boiled from I had made at the same time, and I just had those before shooting this video because this got so late and I was so hungry, so those were part of my meal, I guess you could say. So a total of 6 eggs for the day. I don't usually eat that many eggs in a day, but I haven't had eggs for over a week, so it's not something that I'm too concerned about. And that's it. We're going to zip this up, see how it tastes. Then I'll be coming back in here to shoot the second and third stages of this final bit of my food for my day. One thing I forgot was the chia seed, which was hiding in the back here. I'm going to add a tablespoon of this, just picking it all up. Adds a nice quality to it. Mucilaginous, slows the absorption of everything in the drink. And boom, back in. I almost feel like chaga is to wild foods that goji berries are to herbalism and superfoods. You start getting into these kinds of things, you might taste some goji berries or cacao one day in a health food store, at a demo at a health food store or something like that. And all of a sudden you just find you start learning about all these new things and adding them in. I think the same thing with chaga. Like, I've been into foraging and various wild foods for a while, but never really totally turned on to the concept of really going headlong into it. I'm actively aspiring to consuming more of them. I've always seen people doing it and admired it, but never thought it was going to be for me. But something switched in my mind, I guess, since starting to add chaga in. That is a good level. Not very sweet at all, but just a hint of it to cut through the bitterness of some of those herbs, the cacao, and also the shilajit, which you can definitely taste in there. But it's very chocolatey and kind of coffee-like with the overtones of the chaga. It's very nice. The second meal of the evening. Gotta do this fast because the battery is dying on my camera and I'm having to charge it in between shots. I've got about a cup and a half of wild rice I started soaking 24 hours ago and then cooked on the stove simply with water. And when you've soaked it, you don't need to add as much water, else it'll take way too long to simmer away all the water so that it's not watery rice. And you basically just fill it till it's covered. So any more than that and it's going to take too long to boil it all away, because it's already absorbed a lot of moisture from the soaking. You can always just cook it straight from the dried grain. This is obviously going to take like 40 minutes or so. This way it takes usually under 20 minutes if it's pre-soaked, I find. So you can see the amount of it here. A lot of them sort of break open, some of them don't. And I'm simply going to add a few things. I'm going to add, again, a little dash of kelp powder that I'm adding to everything. Not too much because you don't want the flavor of it. Just trying to work that into as many things as I can to get the extra iodine. I'm going to add a bit of survival pine pollen. It's that time of year. It hasn't actually started falling where I live, but I'm looking forward to collecting some myself when that starts happening. But if you live in more southern areas of the world, in the northern hemisphere, it's already started falling from the trees or being produced, and it's just making its way northward as we speak. So I'm going to add maybe about a teaspoon's worth. Pretty soon survival is going to have a larger quantity as well. This is 48 grams, which is a pretty standard amount for anything of this nature, but for those who want to really load up on it long term, a larger quantity that's maybe at a more bulk price, it's going to be ideal. But for now they're still selling at this price, but they got at this size, but they have a new source for it, which has a nicer flavor from what I've been hearing. This is one of the older ones that I've ordered a while back. I'm also going to add some colostrum to sort of make this more like a porridge, and it's going to add that creaminess that I'm looking for in this kind of meal. Again, we're just adding about a tablespoon of the previous smoothie. Then we want something liquid that kind of helps mix this in. We're going to add a bit of olive oil. This is the only raw olive oil that's out there. It's not really available full on the market yet, but it's Rallis olive oil, which is actually produced obviously from olives from Greece, but they're ice pressed, and then there's a company in Ontario that's shipping it out, and it is available in the US from some sources. Not sure exactly, but it's the only raw olive oil on the market, because even cold pressed gets heated to above 120 degrees. And with something that's that high in polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats, you want to be super careful about how heated it gets. So it's definitely ideal to get this once you know of its availability. It's really has a lot more of the polyphenol content, which actually has some aromatase inhibiting qualities, which is similar to nettle root or these other herbs that are healthy for prostate, controlling bad estrogen levels, and also improving overall testosterone levels if those happen to be compromised in some way. We're going to add a little bit of Greek yogurt, which obviously this one is from a store, so it's not going to be raw, but it's one of the better quality brands out there. Until I can get raw dairy again in my area, this is what I'm making do with, just a small amount of it. I like the Greek style because it has a lot more fat in it, and it has that creaminess that you don't get with sort of the low-fat yogurts that are so prevalent. I'm going to add a little pinch of salt as well. And again, I'll be putting some information out soon about the benefits of salt, which I'm more than convinced about now after having been on a very low salt diet for a number of years. We're going to add a drizzle of maple syrup, maybe a little more than a drizzle, about a tablespoon and a half again. And we're going to mix this up, then we're going to add some blueberries, some wild blueberries that I can get frozen from the store, which I'm very fortunate to have. So once you've got that all mixed in, you can add the blueberries. You just want to make sure that you mix it beforehand just because the blueberries are bigger and chunkier. Let's just see if it's not with desired sweetness, and it tastes great. I love the flavor of pine pollen. Blueberries help cool it down a little bit too. Add maybe a quarter cup. And there you have it. A mostly wild food porridge to have as sort of a pre-main course meal. You know, it's going to be fairly low calorie total, but it's definitely filling in its own right as you're getting a bit more fiber in there with the wild rice as opposed to more refined, whiter rice. So as you see here, for the final meal, we're poaching a bit of salmon. This is wild pink salmon, wild caught. Definitely don't recommend farmed fish of any type. Very basic. You just put like an inch of water in a skillet and simmer it away until you feel it's finished. Sometimes I let the water go down completely, but I find that's a little overcooked if I cook it for that long. And we're basically just going to do black pepper on it. We'll also flip these again. I've already flipped them over once. And then black pepper, as well as some herb de Provence, which is a blend of, you know, some of your basic herbs, rosemary, thyme. It also has some unique things in there from France, like lavender. And I'm not sure if everything that's in there, you'd have to look that up. But it goes well with any kind of meat, I find. Particularly good for beef, but it goes well with fish as well. And we'll kind of mix that around once it flips one more time and gets distributed in the water a bit more. So I've removed the fish from the pan and I've allowed a lot of the juices to start to evaporate and just sort of leave behind the flavor and little bits of herbs that I'm going to leave in the pan there as I throw in some dandelion greens that I harvested here. I'm just taking out this bag. Just careful to choose the ones that are looking good. They've gotten a bit, some of them have some dead bits on them that I obviously didn't clear out well enough. And yeah, we're just going to simmer these, sort of saute them to get them more digestible. Because they're a little bit tough as they're a little older than some of the other ones that came up earlier in the year. Just going to quickly saute them so that they shrink down. Add a splash of soy sauce or tamari. Mix that in. I'd usually do more greens than this, but that was the end of the bag there. I'll have to go out and harvest some more. Or find another green to do. So you can see that this pan was kind of full, although not too full, but it's very quickly reduced to a small bite-sized portion. It's kind of neat to see that occur. Yeah, it's pretty densely packed nutrition, very mineral rich. And as the water's finally completely burning off there, boiling off, we are finished. And the one last thing we got to do is make the condiment that I'm putting with this, and tzatziki that will actually have a third of a cucumber mixed into it. So the tzatziki I'm making has a cucumber base. It's a third of a cucumber shredded up, and then I've actually pressed as much liquid out of it as I can so that we don't end up with tzatziki that's too runny. So after I shredded it, I just simply put a sieve over a cup, put portions in here, drain it, put it back in the bowl. Just drink that when you're done, obviously. Don't throw it down the drain or anything. But with this, we're going to squeeze half a lemon into it. Then we're going to mix in a couple big spoonfuls, or forkfuls in this case, of yogurt. Then we're going to add in a pinch of salt. Hands are a little wet, so they're kind of sticking to my fingers. And a little dash of olive oil. Not a ton, but just under a tablespoon. You can see how green that olive oil is. It's quite the amazing color. You could add garlic if you want. I personally can't really handle raw garlic. It doesn't really fit with my constitution. But then just mix that up, and then you can add it to the dish. I just had a wonderful idea. Why don't I add some chopped chives to make up for the garlic to give it that kick. Fresh from my friend's garden. And there you have it, the final meal of the day. Bit of leftover chive tops for garnish. Dandelion greens and wild pink salmon. I'm going to dig into this. I know it's going to be good. I've made this exact recipe recently. And with the tzatziki, I only used about half what was in the bowl there, just if you thought that was a large amount. I'll just use that for tomorrow night. I have more salmon, I'll probably do something very similar. And yeah, let me know what you thought about the meals I made or that I eat. Obviously, different days I eat different things. That's just a glimpse of sort of how I eat on a daily basis. I do follow the warrior diet generally, unless with family or I'm not strict about it, but when I'm at home I just fall into my regular routine, which is that. And yeah, I find it allows more flexibility with what I eat, so I'm not as strict about what I'm consuming. I mean, obviously I eat organic. I'm following roughly a paleo type diet. Sometimes I eat more carbs, sometimes I don't eat many carbs. I still have a very fat dominant diet, and yeah, you guys want to know what I eat, so that's why I wanted to make this video. And anything you saw me use, like the products like colostrum, pine pollen, those can be found at the links below. One other thing I didn't mention that I consume on a daily basis is E3 Live, frozen Klamath Lake algae. That is a biggie. It's something I find has a very powerful impact, gives you that extra chlorophyll, tons of minerals, a lot of beta carotene, and some other wonderful benefits. You can always check out a past video I've done on E3 Live if you want to know more about it. And also, if you want to try out the ant extract or any other herbal extracts, I do cycle through different tonic herbs, which I think are a wonderful addition to anyone's regimen, which can be easily added to elixirs, even into food. I should show that more often, as mixing them into things like, you could easily mix some herbal extracts into a tzatziki like that, or any kind of sauce. Yeah, so let me know what you think in the comments below. And with that, take care and embrace life without limits. For the second meal of today, we are going to do some wild rice mixed with a few things that are considered wild foods.